Well, welcome everybody to week one and the discussion about migration patterns of early peoples from the west around Asia, where Mongolia would be, and south, where China would be, over the Beringia landmass into northwestern North America. We've really uncovered some major things, discoveries, because of the polar ice melt and some of the permafrost melting as well. And so in your lifetime, you're going to be seeing a lot of changes and a lot of new information about early migratory patterns into North America. And some of them may be very, very old, much older than we had originally thought. We've also seen there's some new information regarding not just people walking over the Beringia landmass, but some may be taking a boat and going from Japan all the way up through and around the Beringia landmass, coming over to the northwest. Or the west around Oregon or California. Now you might say, well, Ms. Khan, that seems to be really kind of wonky. How could that be true, being in little boats? Yes, little boats that they're paddling. And you've got to keep in mind, as the new information becomes open to us and revealed to us, is that we're talking about the Ice Age. We're talking about the water systems, like in the Pacific Ocean, it's not as wide a distance because there's so much ice that has accumulated because of the Ice Age. And many times people would take out in a boat, and then they would skim the edges of the land masses as they would travel forward. So there were places for them to stop. There was definitely food for them to eat, and at this moment, why some people might have left Japan is we're still learning. The original idea was that peoples came over the Beringia landmass as they were following food, which is a legitimate reason to migrate. But that landmass is very interesting because that landmass was huge. That's what we're learning now. And that people would come on their migration, and then there would be another period where the Ice Age would get much, much colder. And those folks from Mongolia, from northwestern or northeastern Russia or China, they would be stuck in one place for a very long time, sometimes for decades, and before the ice would melt enough for them to continue moving forward. And when all these different groups of people got together, living together, they intermingled, they had children together. And so one of the things that's really fascinating that we're learning are new DNA strands that we've never seen before, because DNA, it is the building blocks of life, and the DNA helps people understand, scientists understand things like hair color and eye color and height and weight and facial features, and it's you. DNA it really gives, now with the science that we have, they could remake you sort of, at least in a picture, of what you would have looked like. So DNA and science has really brought us so forward that we're understanding that some of these DNA patterns are very, very unique to those areas. And then as people continue to move forward, some of those odd DNA patterns are what eventually form some Native American groups. Not all Native American groups, at least not that we know of right now. Again, though, because of DNA, because of climate change and permafrost melting, we are finding animals, human beings in the permafrost during the Ice Age period. And so we are getting a new understanding into the life of people who were migrating over to North America through the Beringia landmass. Now, we're also, thanks to archaeology, we are seeing tools that are very Japanese in nature. And so scientists and historians and archaeologists are trying to put those pieces of that puzzle together to understand if there were people from Japan and the Japanese islands who were migrating over via boats. On the eastern seaboard, which is very, very new, we are learning that that may be the same with Native Americans already being established in the Northeast, and that Europeans came over much, much earlier than we ever thought. Well, we know the Vikings were there by 800. We know this through archaeological evidence in Nova Scotia, in northeastern Canada. So we know that those some Vikings and Danes came that far because of what they left behind, the archaeological evidence of homesteads and things like that. But we're also seeing in the Huron peoples evidence, DNA evidence of European influence and or Europeans' DNA in this Native American group that is part of the Iroquois Confederacy. So what we're learning right now with migratory patterns and Native Americans or people who become the Native Americans in North America, we're learning a lot about how these folks lived, how they traveled, and how they actually got here before they begin to splinter off into groups, some of them going all the way down into South America and others going east into areas on the eastern seaboard of North America. So it's very interesting to see. You also can see through some of the information from your textbook on Chapter 1 how there was a lot of trade that was going on with Native Americans and from different Native American tribes. And so these folks are not living in isolation. They're very much in tune with their surroundings. They are living off of the land comfortably. Their idea of making war is not necessarily to kill people. Sometimes making war means to be able to get supplies or maybe stealing people in order to repopulate their tribe because maybe something happened, there was a sickness or something happened, they died. As we go forward in American history, we're going to see the collision of cultures between Native Americans and the Europeans as they come across and into North America. and really, in the end, how it kind of works out. Not so great for Native Americans. But nevertheless, this first chapter, please make sure you're reading it and looking through it. And if you need anything from me, I also not only read the chapter, but watch the videos. If you need anything from me, please let me know. I'm happy to help in any way that I can. Thank you. I hope in advance for not minding that I'm doing these lectures from home with my wee little ones. But I hope that you enjoy them to some degree. All right? And I am, remember, only an email away. Well, good luck with your work, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.